we've got 4 movies coming out this year about making movies that are done by like big high profile directors. Birdman, the guy who did that in Inarritu.
He's doing his new movie's coming out. Yeah.
It's Bardo.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Mendes has Empire of the Light.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Babylon by Damien Chazelle.
And then there
Fablemans.
Fablemans with Steven Spielberg.
Yep, and there's another one too. This one it's not a big director, at least not yet. He could be, but the movie X. They're making a movie that movie. So that's another movie about making movies.
Yeah.
And the sequel to X came out recently.
But
it's a prequel.
But now there's going to be a sequel to X.
Yeah.
Oh.
So called Monica, but it's like 3 X's in the middle or something like that. Maxine. Why did I say Monica?
Yeah.
Maxine. There's no X's in Monica, Randall.
Is it also coming
Maxine
out this year?
Yeah.
Well, no.
Well, it got teased. Apparently, they're going to try to like push forward production as fast as possible because they do want to like try to like, but it's not been shot. It's not been shot at all yet. It's just there's like one teaser.
But yeah, they've released 2 X movies this year.
Yeah. I haven't even seen.
I haven't even seen the first one. The
yet.
original Japanese The Ring came out the same year as its sequel.
Yeah.
So will the next 2 Avengers movies.
Fucking Matrix Reloaded and Revolution same year.
2003. Yeah.
I usually releasing sequels in the same exact year is just like cannibalism of your own box office.
Historically, that's never worked out.
It's never really worked out.
I mean, the last time it was attempted, that I think was probably the 2 Matrix movies.
Yeah.
I think
well, actually, no, that's not true. They weren't released in the same year, but it's the same calendar year.
Yeah.
It was The Last Jedi and Solo.
Yeah. They were released within 6 months of each other.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely a reason why Solo didn't do very well.
It's part of it, plus the production history that was so like
just fucked.
Also, I'm just not sure if people
Plus, it was called Solo and not Mr. Solo's Grand Adventure.
Mr. Solo's Great Adventure.
Also,
Mr. Solo's Wild Ride.
And he also should have had that's the thing Solo starts off and he's solo already, and then he becomes Solo at the end of the movie. So I'm like, okay, when do you go solo? So I wish he was like he had like a top hat and he had like a big thick British accent and he had like a big mustache and he wore like a tuxedo and he had a team of these guys and they were basically the Droogs of some planet. They beat people with canes. And
we're gonna have to watch that movie at some point on this podcast. And I think a lot of people have seen it, but that's gonna be a hard one for some people to see for the first time.
But you get to see that guy evolve into Han Solo. Like that's a story. That is a Breaking Bad level.
So does he?
Saga.
Is he? So would he be exactly like the Droogs? So do they do the exact same things?
No. Well, he's just influenced.
Well, see, that's the thing.
Still a kids movie.
That's the thing. That's the thing that was always interesting about Han Solo is you got the impression that like maybe currently or like at one point in his life this guy was a humongous piece of shit. Like just did awful shitty things. And
I don't
Solo,
know.
he like kind of doesn't. He like shoots one guy in cold blood.
I disagree. What is it? Not Freddie Prinze Jr. Who is the other guy who's also screamed? He plays the guy who plays Darth Maul. What's his name?
Sam Witwer.
Sam Witwer. It might have been Sam Witwer who talked about it, but it also might have been Freddie Prinze Jr. where it's like Han Solo doesn't have that dark backstory because Han Solo is just the reluctant hero. He was always meant to be that. Yeah. So he can never have been a bad person. He just has to have been like a selfish person before. But if you make him a bad person in the past and have this like really dark, fucked up backstory, that would
kind of
ruin the whole thing. He was always supposed to be a good person at heart who just didn't want to have to do what he inevitably has to do.
Rolling it back to him being an 18th century like British thug, I guess
by order of the Peaky fucking Blinders.
Yes, I'm less.
What a space, Peaky Blinders.
Less Droogs, more like Peaky Blinders, more like
I can get behind
in
that.
Cloud Atlas. You remember the thugs in Cloud Atlas who stick that guy's head in the toilet?
Where they have their eyes taped back to be
No, it's not in that part. That's in the later part.
It's not
of Cloud Atlas.
It's not Hugo.
I'm talking about earlier in the movie where British thugs stick an old man's head in the toilet.
No, I don't remember anything about that movie. As an Asian American, I just refuse.
They did it the other way too.
I don't care. I don't. We put some people of color in whiteface, so it's okay if we put them in yellow face later on. With white people in yellow face, it's okay.
That's some real it's a real cast of It's Always Sunny.
It's okay that fucking Tom Hanks walks out like this, just eyes peeled back, just No, no.
You know what the worst part about it is too? They have one Asian actress in whiteface at the end.
Yeah, she's an amazing actress. Oh,
well,
fuck,
no. But what I mean is like they have the rest of their cast in yellowface.
Yeah, no, I know. It's a shame because like she ends up like they end up using. She's a Korean actress. I can't remember her name right now. But they ended up using her for Sense8. She's amazing in Sense8. No. Side note, Sense8. That show fucked hard all the way throughout, and it is a shame what Netflix did to it.
It's a shame what Netflix did to a lot of their good shows.
A lot of their good
shows.
shows.
They did that shit to Glow, too. Like, they
Glow.
filmed the fucking episode for season 4, and then they're like, no, we're shit canning it. Fuck you.
The pandemic killed it.
Netflix is fucked up, and like a lot of Netflix films and Netflix TV shows are marred by these like difficult production histories in which people come in and drop out of stuff. Which reminds me a lot of this week's movie, A Simple Plan, which doesn't have the most complicated history, but David will get into it. I did look a bit of it myself. Sam Raimi was definitely not the first or even second pick. He was like the third pick for director or something.
There's a couple actually really interesting names that were hovering around this project in the early 90s. So there's this newly kind of found independent film studio that I can't remember the name of. They didn't even last like 6 years before they went bankrupt and closed the studio. But at the beginning, when they first opened up their production company, they bought a bunch of film rights and scripts, sort of small scale stuff because they were just a new company. And one of the scripts they bought was for A Simple Plan, which was I think it was a New York Times bestseller. I could be wrong on that.
It was like a crime novel.
Yeah, 1993, I believe, is when it came out.
Yeah.
Immediately, like, he wrote the screenplay and started optioning the rights.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one of the first directors to sign on board was Mike Nichols, the director of The Graduate. And, a bunch of great filmmaker.
I looked that up. I didn't realize it was the guy.
Yeah, he was on board to do it. Then he had scheduling conflicts with a different movie that he wound up doing. I don't remember the name of it. Something about horses.
The Graduate 2, Horse Cock.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's exactly what it was, Jesse. How'd you know?
I'm a big Mike Nichols fan.
I haven't seen the first one, but I did see Graduate 2, Horse Cock.
It's a great, touching story. It's like, he comes home from graduate school and he starts jerking off horses.
Yeah. But
that horse seduces him, puts its leg up on the post, and it just horse cock flops down. And you get that shot of the horse cock like beautifully like framing him.
And it's a beautiful homage to Freddie Got Fingered.
Oh,
but
surely.
I will say this, knowing what we know now about Dustin Hoffman, him and the scenes with the young horses just rubbed me the wrong way.
You see, actually, what was interesting about that one was Mike Nichols was kind of ashamed to have his name on it, so he changed his name to a pseudonym. He was Mike Cuckles.
That makes sense.
That
makes sense. Okay.
So that's why he's credited as Mike Cuckles in that movie. It's a pseudonym.
By the way,
it's sort of like what's that name when directors take the name?
Alan Smithy.
Yeah, it's like an Alan Smithy for porn.
Alan Smithy, I guess.
I've become really passionate about the Alan Smithy Hellraiser bloodline.
Oh, hell yeah.
But that's not a topic
so real quick, before we continue into like the backstory of this movie, I guess I did just say A Simple Plan. 1998, director Sam Raimi, known for the Evil Dead franchise, known for Darkman, known for the Spider-Man movies, specifically the ones with Tobey Maguire. He's done quite a lot. Oz the Great and Powerful.
Dr. Weird.
And Professor Weird.
Dr. Weird 2 with guest starring Ant-Man or whatever.
And so, he's done...
And Oz the Great and Powerful.
Yeah, I said that already.
We don't talk about that movie.
But he's done a lot of work. This is from that period in the 90s where David's mentioned this in the last episode, where he just kind of like was trying to more like play into the studio because he had friends like the Coen brothers.
He became
studio darlings and whatnot for a while.
Yeah, in the 90s he's sort of, and this is actually kind of what he's continued on to even now up to this point. There's a few exceptions, but like he became kind of a studio director for hire. This is after the success of his 3 Evil Dead movies, and Darkman was a modest hit, but not as
which
a big
Bridget
hit.
Fonda was in Army of Darkness.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, she was.
That's one of the reasons why she's in this movie, because Sam Raimi remembered her. But one of the other directors that was on board early was Ben Stiller, actually.
Yeah, that was an interesting one I saw, which makes sense when you look at like his '90s directorial like career.
You're like Cable Guys.
Cable Guy. There's a black comedy, and I think I mentioned before about like a writer wanting to kill his old lady neighbor or whatever. Mm-hmm. In general, like this is really up his directorial alley.
I could 100% see the Ben Stiller version of this, maybe like leaning a bit more into the comedic aspects, which like there are comedic aspects to this movie, but I think he definitely would have made this like a dark comedy.
I think ultimately the thing that makes this work is that Sam Raimi, this is one of the films that, like, aside from a couple scenes, you wouldn't tell it's him. Although the reason you definitely can tell it is him, besides those two scenes, is his control of tone.
Yeah.
Because it ping-pongs between, like, being comedic, but being very stressful the whole time, no matter what. Mm-hmm. Okay, so continuing with the production. So you said Ben Stiller was attached at one point.
He was actually pretty close to shooting that one. Mm-hmm. Him and the screenwriter actually really worked on that movie together. And he basically helped rewrite the script with him this time. Mm-hmm. And that authors actually said that like working with Ben Stiller actually made him a better writer because he went on to write other books and stuff.
Yeah.
So he credits Ben Stiller as, a big influence. Actually.
That makes sense.
But so he left the project for creative differences, as usually goes.
Who did he have attached to play Hank?
I don't even know if they got as far as the casting.
Okay.
I could be wrong though. But like the next guy they brought on board, a guy named John Dahl. I don't really know who this guy is, but he has had a pretty prolific career in TV. I looked at it. He's been pretty consistently working in TV since the mid-90s.
He's one of those like safe directors you could.
He's directed a few movies, none of which I've seen or heard of, so I can't even remember them. But I think prominently he directed some episodes of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, I mean, but like
the new one or the old one?
The 90s one.
The 90s, yeah.
There was a 90s Battlestar?
So, like, the thing to know about that, too, like, why he would be chosen, because it might be confusing.
And he actually had Nicolas Cage as a star in it.
Oh! Yeah, that was pretty insane, yeah. Because this was also the 90s era of Nicolas Cage, where he was kind of in this weird spot where he's no longer in these, like, indie darlings as much anymore. And he's starting to try to go more regular mainstream by the end of the 90s. You're starting to get things like Family Man and stuff. He's already gotten his Oscar in, like, what, 96 or something? What was that? Was it Leaving Las Vegas?
Leaving Las Vegas, I think that was like 98, 99.
Okay, so this is around the time he did Leaving Las Vegas. Never mind. So, but this is an interesting period of transition for him before he gets to be known for, like, bad movies all the time. Like, this is peak Nick Cage. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. But John Dahl being chosen... People might be confused, like, why would they choose a TV director? But, like, if you think about it, who would be reliable to, on time and on budget, film something? A TV director. If you've worked so long in TV, it's like, yeah, you'll get it done.
Because this movie didn't have, as you could probably tell, it didn't have a very high budget.
No.
It didn't really need it, to be fair. So, yeah, you're getting a TV director.
Yeah, it's almost a bottle film. It's got very few scenes, or very few locations. Yeah. Reuses them a lot.
The last director they had before Sam Raimi came in was a guy named John Boorman. Mm-hmm. Apparently a pretty big deal in like British TV and a film. He was actually knighted in January of this year.
Holy shit!
So
the last things the Queen did.
Yeah, and so he's a pretty big deal. He's won some Academy Lifetime Achievement Awards, some BAFTAs Achievement Awards. So apparently he's a big deal. I haven't really heard of him much though. Although there's 2 movies in his filmography. He's had a very long filmography that I have heard of. One of them is Deliverance.
Holy shit! He directed Deliverance.
Yeah,
which when you compare it to this movie, it actually like makes a little bit of sense.
No, I can.
And then if you want a completely tonal shift from Deliverance, you have Exorcist 2: The Heretic.
No, I feel like both of those movies are horrifying, different ways, but yeah.
The movie sucks.
Yeah,
wish it was Eczemist.
Eczema.
Wait.
The Eczema 2.
Wait, is Exorcist 2 the one with
Reagan's just putting on like cold
That's the one
cream?
with James Earl Jones.
Exorcist 3 is the other good one.
That one is good.
Is Exorcist 3 the one where the serial killer's possessed by the demon?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's the
good
one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, Exorcist 2 is like Reagan when she's older, right?
Yeah,
it
has
dumb,
fucking
movie.
I just
James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I just said his name.
Look, The Exorcist should barely exist on its own. And it's
doing a reboot, too.
Somehow a fantastic movie, and it has a lot of shit going against it, and a lot of people don't like it, and I totally get it. Mm-hmm. But to make a sequel is just like, oh my god, are you really taking us through this again?
There's no real point to it. It doesn't make any sense.
It barely worked the first time.
It barely worked the first time.
And it's a miracle it pulled off.
It's also like so weird with the mythos of The Exorcist, where like all these different movies try to change it to be a different thing. Whereas the original, if you remember, now some people might remember it as being like, oh, it's just Catholicism is real. No, it was low-key implying all religion is real. Yeah. Because it's an ancient Sumerian deity,
Pazuzu, right?
Pazuzu, who's doing this, but also Christian hell exists, Christian God exists,
and Christian tactics fight and stop Pazuzu.
And also that whole movie, we're not going to get into it, but it really is interesting because it was like about a loss of faith and like existential dread, and then manifesting that, and so it actually works on a really deep level. That's why it lasts. Anyways, back to A Simple Plan, not a horror film.
Yeah, definitely not.
A thriller.
So with John Borman, he was the one who actually I misspoke earlier when I said who was it? I said that Ben Stiller was the closest to actually filming it. That's wrong. John Borman actually was. He was the one who cast Billy Bob Thornton and Bill Paxton. And he was also the one that did all the location scouting.
Well, he did good on the locations.
No, very good.
Yeah.
And he left pretty much like weeks before they were supposed to start filming because he had some creative differences apparently and budgetary differences with the studio. He wanted a slightly higher budget. Studio said no, and he left. And then that's when Sam Raimi got involved. Also, a thing I forgot to mention before he became involved, the company that was supposed to make the movie, they went bankrupt and just stopped making movies.
Very cool.
And so the rights went kind of out into the market again, and it got picked up by Paramount, who still owns it, by the way. And this movie, they never actually made a Blu-ray for this movie, which is very weird.
I imagine it got made pretty quickly after Paramount got it.
Yes, pretty much, almost.
Yeah, they kind of fast-tracked it.
Yeah, so that's when John Borman became involved, and then Sam Raimi, and then it finally got made. And so when Sam Raimi became involved, it was so late in the pre-production under John Borman that they basically were like, so you can't recast anyone, and you can't do new locations. This is where we're shooting, and this is who you're using. Yeah. Kind of sucks.
He got to bring in Bridget Fonda, though.
Yeah, he brought in because they hadn't cast her yet.
I think I can't remember who. There was someone else who was in the running for her character. I just can't remember
a bunch of other like actresses. I don't remember their names too, but for the part of Sarah. Yeah. But so he brought in Bridget Fonda because he worked with her on Army of Darkness, even though she's like in one scene in that movie. But apparently it's just like she was a huge fan of Sam Raimi, and like it was just like, hey, I want to be in one of your movies. Any part you have for me, I want just cast me, I'll do it. Yeah. And that's why she's in Army of Darkness.
That's believable. I mean, like from most of the stories I hear about like people who work with Sam Raimi, they're like, he's complete professional.
There's so many
Tobey Maguire said he threw stuff at his head.
Well, Tobey Maguire's a subhuman piece of shit.
To be fair, someone on the set of Spider-Man, one of like the grips, paid or offered to pay what is it what's his name,
Joe Manganiello.
Joe Manganiello offered to pay him $100 to knock out fucking Tobey Maguire
also,
on accident.
The set people on Spider-Man 1 hated him so much they swapped out the fake bricks he was supposed to punch for real bricks, and he broke his fucking hand. Yeah.
Tobey Maguire sucks. If you guys don't know why he sucks,
passive aggressive.
There is a pretty decent, not great, but decent Sorkin movie called was it
Molly's
Game. Yeah, Michael Cera plays Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, he's called Player X, but it's very much Tobey Maguire. Yeah, and actually, they toned down a lot of the real life stuff in that movie. I recommend you watch it and then read the backstory. Tobey Maguire sucks.
It's based off of a book which the titular Molly wrote.
Yeah, it was her autobiography.
Yeah, and she doesn't call him Tobey Maguire by name
for legal reasons
in the book either. Yeah, she calls him Player X.
Yeah, didn't Tobey Maguire like mouth fuck Leonardo DiCaprio with a gun?
I don't think so.
I don't know what you're talking about. They were in the Pussy Patrol together.
He did something fucked up with, or like maybe he made him beg like a pig. I don't know where he got.
No, that was the Molly. He did that to Molly.
He made Molly beg like a seal.
Yeah, he said like, "Oh, you think you're too fucking good for me now? Get on your knees. You'll take the tips I give you." He like smacked her across the face with like a wad of cash, and then made her beg for chips that he would give her to pay her tip. Then he said like, you made this whole like gambling, like deal. They're not coming for your game. They're coming because I'm playing. Because another fun fact, Tobey Maguire apparently is like a world-class poker player, like could compete with like some of the best poker players of the world level. He just does it in back
He's
rooms.
played in tournaments.
Yeah.
No, he's just straight up played in tournaments.
Yeah, do that too. But I'm saying like he doesn't like always do that. He does like the underground stuff more.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about A Simple Plan.
We'll talk about Spider-Man on a different day.
Can y'all tell
shit,
we have
but it is connected. God damn.
Yeah, it is connected. So this movie, it's not your normal Sam Raimi affair for obvious reasons.
Yep.
He wasn't into the idea of making it fully and he didn't have the opportunity anyways. But there's a lot of flourishes in there.
With Sam Raimi though, it's interesting because starting after Army of Darkness, he started, like I said, going in his director for hire phase. And that's kind of when he started experimenting outside of horror.
Yeah.
And so his first movie kind of outside horror was The Quick and the Dead, which is like a Western.
Yep.
It's got like Sharon Stone, Leonardo DiCaprio, Gene Hackman.
Is it also on your list or no?
No, it's not. It's perfectly fine. It's an entertaining movie. It's on Netflix as of this recording.
Yeah.
So
Does anyone?
it's fun. It's a good movie.
Yeah. By the way, does anyone else have any other Sam Raimi movies on our list? I know I have Spider-Man.
I've got
all the
Spider-Man.
Evil Dead
I've got
movies,
Spider-Man
including the
2
remake.
and Evil Dead 2.
All right. Does anyone have anything outside of Spider-Man or Evil Dead? Jacob, do you have Dark
I
Knight?
I almost put Drag Me to Hell,
Okay.
I thought about it too.
but I ended up not.
So
Just because like I have so much Sam Raimi on my list, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
It's definitely one of my favorite horror movies.
I think I
but
might
Yeah.
have put Drag Me to Hell on my list. I can't remember.
I don't think you did.
I don't think you
On
did.
hindsight, I definitely should have put Darkman
Yeah.
on my list. Darkman fucking rules.
It does.
But then before, no wait. So before after Quick and the Dead, he makes this movie.
Yep.
And then after this movie, he makes For the Love of the Game, which is a
Or the baseball
I've seen
trilogy.
that
yeah, it's
that's all right.
Kevin Costner baseball movie. Honestly, not that great. Kind of boring. Honestly.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it at school. It's not
You,
like
you get a
horrible.
Kevin Costner performance,
Yeah.
you know, which is exactly what you described.
And
It's
then
okay.
And then he
Yeah.
directed a movie called The Gift, which honestly isn't very good.
Yeah.
The gift.
Okay, so just into this movie now. Let's just go ahead and jump into it. I think we've given enough backstory and stuff like that. You described this movie last week and before to me, and I think after watching it, it makes so much sense how you described it, which is it's Sam Raimi doing Fargo.
It's
It's
like
it's
a
set
spiritual
in
cousin.
It's
to
a
it, definitely.
thriller, a slightly dark comedic thriller set in Minnesota during a winter storm.
that
Well, I don't
relies
wanna-
on people being dumb.
Well, I don't want
Yeah.
to be that guy, Randy, but technically Fargo was set in North Dakota.
North Dakota, go fuck yourself halfway to
It's
Sunday.
it's all Yoopers, man. Upper Peninsula.
Yeah, you know exactly.
They all
but,
talk like this, don't you know?
Yeah, but
I love the Yooper accents. It's so
Yeah.
charming.
I probably really,
Yeah.
I probably really butchered it, but I've like never heard anyone speak that way. As far as I'm concerned, it's a made up facsimile.
Oh, I
in
got
Hollywood.
got friends from Wisconsin and stuff like that.
Do they actually call it Wisconsin?
No, that's not how you pronounce it. There's like a different way. But yeah, no, I know people from like up there.
Well, like
but,
Sam Raimi's from Michigan himself.
yeah,
so-
and I got friends from Michigan too. But anyways, yeah, no. So this movie, like, I think that is an accurate comparison. It's not like it's ripping off. It's
Oh,
just
no.
remarkably similar.
It came
by
out-
coincidence. Also, it was originally the book takes place in Northern Ohio. Side note, that was a change to change it to Minnesota,
Yeah.
which I think part of that is so the winter is harsher and it's more believable. I think that was probably a big contributing factor. Also, it sets it farther away from a major city because if you're in Northern Ohio, you're still not that far from Cleveland.
Yeah.
You know,
So, what are everybody's general thoughts on the movie?
Well, for me, I just think it's just an overall well-rounded, fantastic movie. It's got a terrific script, especially impressive considering that this is the first script he'd ever written, and it's a great script. And as I mentioned earlier, the screenwriter he credits Ben Stiller for like really helping him really write that script as well as he did. It's very well directed for Sam Raimi, sort of jumping into a genre he had never really done before, as sort of very kind of low stakes kind of thriller. When he doesn't really resort to any of his usual bag of tricks that he's used to. And he kind of put some self-imposed sanctions on himself because he was like, all right, so I've made all my horror movies, but now I want to like kind of go into more serious, kind of potentially award-winning stuff. And I just think the performances all around are all fantastic. Like Bill Paxton is great. Billy Bob Thornton is fantastic too. Bridget Fonda is great. She is a she is ice cold in this movie. She's a real
She's terrifying.
Real Lady Macbeth. She's fantastic in this movie. I think if she might be the best performance, which I think is saying a lot because there's a lot of real strong performances in this movie. And the other guy, I had to write his name down. Brent Briscoe, who plays Lou. Also, the entire cast is all names start with B's, by the way. That's a weird,
very funny.
Weird coincidence I just noticed. But yeah, as Lou, he shows up later in Spider-Man 2. He's the homeless guy that finds Spider-Man's costume in the garbage.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the same guy.
That's him?
Yeah, same guy.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, you know, he definitely struck me as, like, I know he's one of those character actors. I don't know where else I've seen him.
Yeah. I think he was in a previous Sam Raimi movie. I could be wrong about that, though.
He might have been in Darkman.
Mans was in Darkman, yeah. Probably. He was the bandages.
But yeah, I guess that's all I'll say about it for now. We can move on.
Yeah, okay.
See what other people's thoughts
I'll go and go into my thoughts real quick. I thought it's a hidden gem, as you said, in his filmography. I think as soon as the movie ended and the credits started rolling, I was watching with some other people because we didn't watch it all together this time. And immediately I said to the people I was watching with, I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, no. I get why this was on David's list. I get it. It belongs there. As I said, the comparisons to Fargo make sense. It is also very tonally different from that as well. I think that there are some phenomenal performances in this, and it's also a credit to Sam Raimi as an actor's director. Because a lot of times you do talk about how he's like very visual, but he is very good at getting performances out of people. And yeah, he really knocks it out of the park with his directing, and all the actors are like peak. Billy Bob Thornton is just, for me, it's like he is giving such a tragic performance. I love it. Bill Paxton, R.I.P. to a legend. I think he gives probably the best performance of his career in this movie because he's acting his fucking ass off. Bridget Fonda, as you said, very Lady Macbeth. I agree with that. But yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about this. It's a very fucking solid movie. I think everyone should watch it. It's on HBO Max. I should say.
No.
Especially if you're a Sam Raimi completist, or if you just like Sam Raimi,
or if you like movies like Fargo or thrillers in general, like Cape Fear or something like that. I think this is right up your alley for the kind of movie you might like.
I've been watching Breaking Bad, so I've been really into like sort of like crime dramas about average people. And this has absolutely, it absolutely sucked me in for the same reasons. But I'm gonna share my thoughts, and I hate to say it because it's probably like the dark shadow that has like lived over this movie since it's existed. But it is Fargo, but worse. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It is not bad by any means. When I say that, I just mean I think Fargo is like a near perfect movie, and to me, this is like a drama that I didn't really know Sam Raimi was capable of doing, and it was absolutely engaging.
More grounded than you'd expect from him.
Absolutely. And like I found myself getting frustrated with the characters a lot, which at first you think is a bad thing about a movie, but for me that is always one of the best things about a movie. When I feel like I don't have control over the characters as an audience member, it makes it feel more like you're on a journey and you're just having
and I've got something to say about that, but I do want to hear from Jesse first.
Well, I mean, like, you know, a lot of the praises that have been said here, I'm going to echo. You know, fantastic performances. Billy Bob Thornton was nominated for an Academy Award for this, and it's completely deserved.
Understandable, yeah.
He's, oh my God, he's the only good person in this whole movie as like a character, as like a moral person, and just gets shit thrown in his face all the fucking time. It's just really sad to watch, but I'll go into that later. Yeah, good performances, pretty tight script. I'll go into I do have some problems though. I guess I'm more in Jacob's camp of like, there's some things of this movie that just rub me the wrong way, and it's mostly just because I really love the crime thriller genre, and I really love like how complex and layered it can be, and how you can understand how real people are into the situations. But my favorite kind of crime thrillers are the ones that feel like real life. This very much feels like a movie, not in a bad way. I still really like it. I still recommend people go watch it, but it does feel sort of theatrical, sort of archetypical, sort of pulpy, in a way, which may be the intent. It's based off a pulp novel. But
which also fits with like every Sam Raimi movie he's ever made.
Yeah, Sam Raimi makes
that's part of his style.
Very pulpish kind of movies. And I can see the appeal in that. You know, I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but for me personally, it's just not what I
don't know.
like.
For me, I get where you're saying pulp movie, but it doesn't. What it seems like more to me, and I know it's an adaptation of like of a fiction novel, but it seems like it's almost an adaptation of like a nonfiction account of like an actual crime that occurred. It feels like a movie based on a true story. It seems like it's not. It feels very realistic. Back to what Jacob was saying earlier about like all the people feel like real people and they're frustrating, but it's that kind of frustrating that's realistic in like every aspect of it. To me,
Like,
is very real.
Like, for me, one thing about it is that, like, one thing I like, and that, like, I feel unfair comparing it to Fargo, but I feel it works on so many comparisons. Like, this movie has a fantastic soundtrack.
Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
It's got a fantastic soundtrack. And so I was thinking, and I was like, Fargo has one of the best soundtracks ever made. And I was like, so that's something Fargo has in it for it. And then I was thinking about the music in this movie, and I was like, but not really. It's just different. It's just different music.
Yeah.
But I just happen to like Fargo more.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's part of the thing for this movie is that, like, the characters feel real and they are frustrating. And, you know, like, it is theatrical, but it feels like a real crime to me in ways that like Coen brother movies don't, and even like the Fargo TV show and stuff that's based off this, because the characters in this movie are so dumb and they think they're so smart.
But
at the
it's
same
dumb in
time.
a realistic way.
Yes, no,
not,
that's what I mean.
It's not a played up kind of dumb.
I hear about, like, I watch true crime videos about shit that happens like this all the time, where it's just people think they're outsmarting the law and they're just like making the worst decision possible.
I also love
even
that,
if
like,
they're trying
tying
to get
that
away
back
with
to
it.
the title of the book in the movie. It's A Simple Plan.
Yeah.
It's the idea that like we all like we hear about these crimes or we talk about, you know, everyone's fantasized of robbing a bank or like how they would get away with a crime of like stealing something, and you always come up with the most simple plan.
You see,
and you
it's
go,
a simple plan.
But the wrench in the works of all these simple plans is like personal motivation.
Yeah.
If everyone did everything exactly as it was supposed to, you are to believe it would play out well. But the one wrench in the works is all of the greed. However, the ending reveals the wrench in the works was something from the beginning with the money inherently. If they had stuck to the plan, even if it was exactly as followed, nothing happened, and they started spending, they would immediately get caught.
Yeah.
Like, it would have happened no matter what.
And I will say that is there's a lot of this stuff in this movie that I do genuinely love, and the ending is one of those things because there's so many layers to it. Like, once they realize they have to burn the money and they can't spend it, it's like, oh shit, so this was all for nothing, all this horrible shit, all these people died for nothing. But there was a scene earlier, specifically with Bridget Fonda, where they're talking about, well, we have to return the money. You know, I just wish things could go back to normal. And she's like, oh, you want to go back to normal, where I'm working at a library job I hate, staying home, taking care of the kids, where you're bookkeeping at this mill, where she basically admits, like, I don't like my life. I hate being the stay-at-home housewife. It's an awful life. I don't like it. This money can change it, though. And then they don't get the money. And so they just have to keep on living their life with all this shit out in the open.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. And I think that's why, like...
Spoiler alert.
I will fucking kill you. Just like Hank kills so many people, I will kill you. All right. But I think that's like one of the like things that that's yet again it's one of the things that I really like about this movie. It's like it does get all kind of laid out there, and it's like it's the opening narration is so perfect. Then in retrospect, when that scene happens, where it's like he talks about like I was, you know, my father said this is what happy is. You make enough to get by. You set up the life for your family. You have free time to spend with your family. And as long as it's enough and you're there, you're happy. I didn't know it until later, but I was happy. Except he wasn't. Yeah. Because if anything, one of the things that like is like the main part of like Hank's character is that he's naive, but he thinks he's not.
Right.
He thinks he knows better than everyone. He thinks he's so smart, but he is so naive to so many things. Like, for example, the fact that his wife is fucking unhappy and does not like where they're at, though he thought it was perfect. Or the fact that, like, Jacob tells him later on, he's like, that one girl I dated did it as a dare. And he thought, I thought you had something actually going on there. Or the biggest one out of all of them is when Jacob's over for dinner and his wife gets up to go like watch the baby, and he's like, yeah, maybe Dad wouldn't have like killed himself or whatever. And he goes, what are you talking about? He goes, oh, come on, Hank, you gotta know.
Yeah.
He'd been down that turnpike 1,000 times a day. nothing would have changed that. It had, he was deeply unhappy. He thought the insurance would cover everything. He just wanted out.
They're like, oh my.
And it's just that obliviousness of him, which, by the way, and I'll talk about in a second about the changes, but that's one of the changes from the novel. In the novel, it was Jacob who didn't know that, and it was Hank who knew that. And seeing as how it's the screenwriter is also the author, I think it's like one of those, he's like, no, this does work better. It's one of those reflections on his work. It's another editing process where he goes, actually, it does work better for Hank's character to be the one oblivious than Jacob. It works. Also, another thing about the characters, it's like so good. It's like Jacob is much more knowing than everyone gives him credit for. You see this as like, this, they're treated as like the idiot brother who's a fuck up and the smart brother who's got it all together. In reality, it's not an extreme in either direction. They're actually pretty level playing field. Yeah. It's just one presents as more, one presents as less.
Both their lives are incredibly sad in different ways.
But they're also very similar. Yeah. Jacob later says when he's talking to Lou, like, I'm not nothing like him. You're more of a brother to me than he is, but he's not. He really is, because that was a trick, just like something Hank would do, and he's doing it for Hank. Very similar. He also said when he was talking to Hank, like, you're nothing like Dad. I talk to Dad all the time. I'm just like him. And what did his dad do? Killed himself because he was tired, and he just didn't care, and he just wanted it to be over with. It wasn't even a severe depression. It was just he was tired. And what is the last thing Jacob says to Hank as to why he should kill him? I'm tired.
Yeah.
And that's that's more tragic than someone being depressed and crying and wanting to die. It's just I'm tired of it, man. I can't do it.
That fucking ending, like I was there were parts of the movie where I was rocky. That ending, as soon as Jacob just hands him the gun, he's like, make it look like the bad guy did it. I was like, oh fuck, they're not going this route, and they did it, and it just fucking broke me.
It breaks you, man.
It is. There's so like the entire thing, just like with Jacob and Hank and their dad and their whole backstory. Like there's just so much shit in there that like it feels very human, it feels very real, and it's just fucking heartbreaking. Like it's the revelation that their dad didn't go broke trying to pay the mortgage. Their dad went broke trying to put Hank through college, and Hank never knew that. He never
Hank
realized
took it for granted.
He took it for granted.
Yeah.
And it's just and then that scene after he like admits that like, no, yeah, that girl in high school just did it as a dare, and Jacob's like, but I just like I want to get the farm, I want to marry a nice normal woman, I want to have a bunch of kids, sit out, drink on the porch like Dad and their uncle do. I just want to know what normal people do. That fucking line just broke me to fucking pieces. And it like there are very human things about these characters, and I do like that these characters are given a lot more what's the word? They're given a lot of dimensions. They're given a lot of depth.
They feel like real people.
They do. I mean, they are very much written like real people. I'd say they feel kind of like adaptations of real people. I guess this is an adaptation of a book, so it makes sense. I'm nitpicking a little bit. It's just I think this is one of the movies where I'm very aware I'm watching a movie. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's just a preference.
You're all talking about the critical flaws of the characters in this movie, and to me, there's two real critical flaws in the movie. One is at the very end when the wife is trying to beg him to keep the money, and he's like, no, we gotta burn it, and he burns it. And it's like, okay, well, just hold on, let's dial it all back here. One, you keep it and you never spend it. You just have a big bag of money lying around. That's kind of a cool thing to show people.
You don't need to pay for like building blocks for your kid. They can use stacks of money.
Yeah. Number
save,
two, there are ways around this. The serial numbers are marked, but there are ways that you could disperse the money over a wide enough range that it could not be tracked back to you. So is it better to just burn it, or maybe just sit on it?
Or also
and try to figure out a plan to that.
Realistically, the FBI would stop watching for those serial numbers given 5 years' time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I get the sense that it was more about like after everything he went through, it wasn't.
He was just tired.
Right.
No. It
wasn't worth it.
He was tired
anymore.
too.
Yeah, he was tired too.
But,
also, like, I mean, it. You got to remember, like, these are characters who think themselves smarter than they are. And so it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, not only is he tired, it's just like, I mean, that's as far as he can think now. It's like, how would you wash this money? Also, give you $4.4 million. How are you going to wash the money? What black market connections do you have?
It absolutely makes sense that he would burn it after seeing his brother die.
After killing his brother.
Yeah. Absolutely. After killing his brother, absolutely makes sense that he would burn it there. But what I'm saying is, my point there is that the money being marked by the FBI is not a gone thing. That doesn't mean the money's useless.
Okay.
The big problem here is the wife suggesting to take half of it back, which is already a stupid as fuck idea because you're returning to the crime scene. But beyond that, whoever's going to look for that money is going to be looking for all of it. Not
they're going to know how much was on
it.
So
500,000 specifically.
Her reasoning is just like, so if they find...
It's too much money to leave behind, right?
Well, her reasoning was just like, well, if somebody finds this plane and they find that there's no money in it, they're going to come looking for it.
Right.
So if you put some money in there, it'll be like, well, then nobody found it. Then because
the idea would that be
here,
maybe I think the thought is that maybe some of it fell out of the plane, or later it turns out convenient to them that there was a second person who was not in that plane crash who was a part of the robbery. That the belief is that if the police come looking for the money and find some money and the other person's missing, it's like, oh well, the rest of the money's or something like that.
Right.
But it's like it's one of those things where it's like the plans aren't perfect, and that's the point.
Right. No, absolutely. But if he doesn't go and return to the crime scene, if he says, hey, hold on.
Yeah, the farmer would never have died.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then
he points it out to her.
The rest of the movie never happens.
Well, Lou would have caused problems still.
No, Lou would have caused problems, but by that point, you can be
He wouldn't have had the leverage of the farmer.
You can give him some cash, and you can say, okay, take this up to Canada. Find a place where you can get it exchanged. Use that exchanged money to buy goods, and then bring them back to the States and sell them. And boom, you have your cash.
But here's
clean.
Here's the thing. I think with one thing with all these characters are these people aren't criminals. They aren't criminals.
Absolutely.
And so these are just like
they're just regular
people. These are poor.
But come on, you've got to watch Matlock or something.
These are poor working class people.
I don't know. The wife, just how quickly she came up with answers to shit.
She's into Matlock.
No. I think she's done some shit like this. There are bodies to her name under the fucking ground.
She's a librarian, so I think it's safe to assume she reads a lot of books. She's read a lot of books.
She's a white lady. True crime has always been a thing for white ladies. Now they have podcasts, but back then they would read like fucking Dan Brown novels.
What
if
it did go full Sam Raimi at the end, and she's like, oh no, I'm a librarian because I love books, and then she pulls out the Necronomicon and starts bringing people back to life.
Yeah, like the fucking Lou's wife comes back, she starts floating around the room. Yeah. Go ahead.
There's no, I mean.
It's a real testament to Bill Paxton's character that when he killed Lou's wife, I was like, no, he's still in the right.
No, dude. But the thing is, it's like, so this is something I want to get on
because at that point, I guess it was technically self-defense.
Well, and this is something I want to get on actually, because this is the biggest difference from the book is the character of Hank between the book and the movie. And not only that, but the actions he takes.
Yeah.
So, for those who don't know, I'm going to go and give some differences. First off, there's a lot of similarities. I mentioned one of the big differences before is which one of the brothers actually believes it's a suicide. All right? That's a change. Another big change is that Hank kills way more people in the book.
Oh.
Yeah.
He kills way more people. Because you know how they bring up the dollar bill thing? Mm-hmm. When he goes home and tells his wife, he's like, we just gotta sit on this. She goes, I already went to the general store and spent $100 there. And so he goes to the general store to go try to break into the register. The owner finds him and he kills him with a machete. And then an old lady outside waiting for the store to open sees it. He kicks open the door, drags her in, and chops her up too.
Also in that scene where he kills Lou and Lou's wife, he also kills Jacob in that scene in the book. And then at that point, it just diverges completely from the movie.
Well, yes, he does kill Jacob, but it's still the same idea. Jacob, it's the same. Yeah. It's the same reason he kills Jacob. Right. Jacob asks him, "Please, just kill me. I'm done with this." But there's another body in that scene because it's not a farmhouse. It's not a farmhouse that it happens at. It's an apartment building, and the landlord lives right next door. And so he kills Lou. He kills Lou's wife, and then he knocks on the door, or the landlord comes out and he kills the landlord and makes it look like Lou had an argument with his wife, killed her, and then killed the landlord over money.
It's like a fucking SNL sketch.
Yeah, and then he makes it look like Lou killed his brother, and then his brother killed Lou, or something. They shot each other at the same time or something. It was very complicated, but so he kills way more people with way less remorse. He is not as remorseful. Well, he is actually at the end. He's very remorseful, but he's not as sympathetic. because he's not. It's not. One of the beautiful things about the crimes he commits and the murders he commits, you kind of get it. If you were panicked in that situation, you might do the same thing.
They're not premeditated. They all happen in the moment.
And they're not so grand and plotting that they're like kind of, but like the Lou scene is just in the book is so much more plotting and fucked up. And killing a fucking couple people with a machete, I don't care if you're trying to cover, that's way over a line. Yeah. Shooting someone, suffocating someone, whatever. Fucking chopping people up with a machete, you're starting to like it at that point, right? Yeah. That's a little bit much. Another difference is that there's more of an epilogue. Yeah, he does burn the money after he gets the $1 bill back or the $100 bill back because he's like, fuck it, we can't. He's like, no. He's like, this is way too... I've killed too many people now. We can't do this. She does protest. She does cry. And then they burn the money. And this is where it gets even more fucked up. She has another kid with him. They name him Jacob. And their daughter goes out into a wading pool in the epilogue. And she drowns but doesn't die. And she ends up severely disabled. And there's like a mention from Hank in the end where he's like... And me and my wife have just accepted this as our punishment for our crimes. Yeah. And he's like, this horrible life we live, our daughter being disabled, everyone we know hating us now. Like, and this is just, and also it does bring, it brings up the point many times, and his wife does in the movie, but in the book, it really brings it up that like no one for any of the crimes suspects him. Even the general store murder, which is so fucked up, because it's so fucked up, no one suspects him at all. No one even thinks to suspect him.
This movie does play a lot with like the theme of perception because you get that opening sort of scene of like Hank going about town and like, well, there's another opening scene that I really want to get to. We'll get to that later.
You could just say it right now because it cuts between the two. It's meant to go together.
It's the scene where you see the crows and then you see the chicken coop and then you see the fox stalking outside the chicken coop. There's a lot of really cool visual stuff with the foxes and the crows in this movie, but it's mostly the scene where you see Hank going about town and you see him like all the townspeople know him and he's like a generally well-liked guy and he goes home and like his perfect wife is sitting there and she's clearly pregnant and it's like, oh, you think this guy has a perfect life and he's a great guy.
He even tells you in the beginning.
Yeah. And as the movie goes on, you realize like, no, he's kind of an impulsive moron asshole.
Yeah, but it also it's set up, like I said, you said it's visual juxtaposition. It's set up to show like, hey, here's this fox, very beautiful in the snow, stands out. And look at it stalk these chickens, and then it brutally kills a chicken and runs off.
Well, and the fox comes back later in a way that blew my fucking mind. When Hank's getting his fucking haircut, and the cop guy walks in, and he's like, oh, we got an FBI agent in town. He's wanting to talk about a crashed airplane. There's a stuffed fox in the barbershop in the scene. Yeah. And the second I saw that, I was like, this is all coming back. Because I saw that fox, and at that point, I was like, I completely forgot they found $4 million in a crash plane in the beginning of this fucking movie.
Yeah, well, also another part that's really good is that the reason the farmer even shows up on the snowmobile is because he's chasing that fox.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because that fox keeps snooping around where it got its little bounty.
It does.
And it's a little greedy and can't just leave it alone and be happy with the one chicken. Yeah. It's got to keep coming back.
Yeah, the movie does so many good things, just like visually showing you how these events happen just by accident.
And I think one of the best. This movie is not. It's got some symbolism in it and whatnot. And there's deeper layers to it, but it's a very straightforward film overall. It's got about the same amount of deep layers that most movies have. You can, there's things there to be visual. I think one of the best moments though is when they're chasing the fox with Mary Beth, and they're in the woods and they're trudging through the snow, and Jacob looks up and goes, "Man, look at all those crows, man. They just sit around. They wait for things to die so they can eat them. Man, that's a sad life." And that's literally sets up everything that happens afterwards. Yeah. What do? Immediately find the corpse of a pilot and $4.4 million that they just grab up. And then after that, it's just killing people so they can have their little bounty.
The crows are such a good visual motif in this movie because they mark the crime scene, but they always mark it's like ominous, like something bad is about to happen.
Something bad's gonna happen. Yeah.
It's done really well, and you could argue it's over the top. But one, fuck you, Sam Raimi. He's allowed to be over the top.
I don't even think it's that over the top. I think
I think there are things in this movie that are over the top, but the animal symbolism is not what I would.
No, it's pretty. It's real. I think it's on par with what most directors would do.
Some of the plot stuff and some of the characters I do think are a little over the top.
I just had a pretty obvious realization.
Yeah,
it's similar to Fargo. Billy Bob Thornton's a Fargo actor.
Yeah, because he's in the show.
Yeah, he's Lorne Malvo, and who's playing like virtually the opposite of Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing too, that I really like about this movie, we were talking about before, like the characters and whatnot. We talk about Jacob as like the best person in the movie, but he's also not. he's also not.
The best doesn't mean morally good. Just out of everyone else in the
Jacob
movie,
literally said the most moral. Doesn't mean he's moral. I get that, but like you did say when you were talking, he's like if anyone, he's the most moral person.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did, I believe, when you were doing your thoughts on the movie.
I think I was the one who said that. Did you say that?
Someone said it on this side.
I think it was Jesse.
Was it Jesse? Okay,
Yeah,
someone said it.
I said something like he was the only good person in this.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like, even he's a bad person. First off, his impulses on everything is like kind of fucked up. His first impulse is to kill the farmer.
Yeah.
The first impulse he has is kill the farmer.
And Lou.
It's just he immediately go. Well, the Lou thing, that one makes more sense. He was actually hesitant on it. Yeah. He did what was right, and I think what most people would do in that situation. He gave Lou all of the outs. He kept begging him, and he shot him. But anyways, but his impulse to the farmer is kind of and he does go through with all these plans, and he's not like a selfless person. He is more selfless than the others, but he's also deeply selfish. In a more understandable way, because he has a sad life and he just wants to have a normal life, and he'll do anything to get it, except the thing that probably does make him the best person is he does just go, fucking kill me. I don't deserve to drive. He's like, at that point, he's less. So part of it is less that he's tired, which he does say, and it's very sad. I think part of it too is like, he's like, I'm a rabid dog. Put me down.
Yeah. And there's
he's like, what do you do when a dog has rabies? No matter how sweet and loyal that dog was, no matter how much you loved it, he's like, put it down. Because he's like, I can't live the rest of my life knowing the things we've done. I can't sit on the porch and drink and be happy with that. Maybe you can, but I can't. And that's part of why he's a good person, but also exemplifies why he's also a bad person. He acknowledges,
To roll it back to Breaking Bad, Jesse Pinkman has that exact same moment in right in the middle of the show in Breaking Bad. It's like that, I'm the bad guy. And in order to be the bad guy, I either need to fight everything in my life constantly and live this horrible life and try to be the best person I can in horrible circumstances, or I can just be bad.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of where,
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I think that's where Jacob was with it, of like, yeah, if I'm going to keep living, I'm going to keep doing this stuff just because, like, this is the only way I can live with this stuff is to keep doing it and get more used to it. So just kill me.
And I think there's a pretty strong implication, if not just outright confirmation in this movie, that the Jacob character is developmentally disabled in some way.
He has like some kind of learning disability.
Yeah,
There's something going on. They don't outright say anything.
They don't outright.
I'm glad they didn't, because it's 1998.
Also, this movie
for 1998, this is a better portrayal than Forrest Gump.
What's interesting about this is this movie came out a year after Sling Blade.
Yeah.
No, 2 years. Sling Blade was 1996.
Was he cast before or after Sling Blade?
After.
I've also never
Sling
seen
Blade was 1996. His movie's 1998.
Then I would say probably that was the intention.
It was also like he was definitely kind of typecast. Yeah.
If it came out before
keeping in mind,
came out before Sling Blade, I'd say it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, keeping in mind like his first technical big break was like 1993 or 2. He was in some movie, but it was like as a character. Sling Blade was what really made people know who he was. And even before that, technically, his other big break was still Sling Blade back when it was a student film.
Mm-hmm.
When it was like a short that he did, that he starred, wrote, and
mustard biscuits.
A little bit of mustard.
It is
no bigger than a baby squirrel.
It is fucking insane to me that Billy Bob Thornton has always looked old as shit.
Well, he has been. He got famous at 40.
He was fucking 40 in Sling Blade?
There was a point in the early 2000s where he was dating Halle Berry and then dated Angelina Jolie.
And
carried around vials of her blood on his neck.
And in Monsters Ball, on camera penetrates her.
He's funny.
They had unsimulated.
I don't think that's true.
That is true. It has been confirmed. They had unsimulated sex on camera.
No, that is
100% true.
Yeah,
they fucked. That's the only thing I know about
that
that
is
movie.
actually true. They had unsimulated sex because they were dating at the time. They were wildly in love, and they were doing the sex scene, and they literally looked at the director and said, "Can we just do this for real?" And the director said, "Yeah, that would be good for the movie."
Is Billy Bob Thornton conservative?
He's funny, but
I think he's one of those like liberal hicks.
Billy Bob Thornton's so fucking cool. I needed to make sure his political views weren't shit.
I mean, I don't think he's conservative at all. Most things about him kind of don't scream that. It's just the accent.
He does believe all children should be sacrificed to the blood of the demon god.
Okay, but all of Hollywood believes that.
Fine.
Like,
yeah, come on, dude.
Gotta get that adrenochrome.
Gotta get that sweet adrenochrome. That's why he's looked 40 for 25 years.
What's funny about
if I start at 40, I'll look 40 forever.
What's funny is it's like he acts very rarely now. I think the last movie I saw him in was in that fucking shitty Russo brothers Netflix movie, The Gray Man.
Oh,
he's in that apparently.
Oh, is he?
But apparently, for the longest time, he stepped away from acting because he was in a rock band, and famously
Billy Bob and the Thorntons.
Famously, he whenever he would do interviews when he was in his rock band, he would always insist that they never ask him about his acting career. He was just like, "I'm a musician now. You ask me questions about the music."
Billy Bob Thornton's so fucking cool.
It's like the reverse of Mark Wahlberg.
And there's a video you can find. There's a video you can find online on YouTube of an interview. Basically, he didn't even ask him a question about acting. He was just like, "So this is Billy Bob Thornton. He's in a band, but you might also know him as a famous Hollywood actor, and he was in movies like Sling Blade and stuff." And fucking Billy Bob Thornton just went off on him. Just unloaded on him.
That's parodied hilariously in I Think You Should Leave, where Santa Claus becomes an actor and he's giving an interview, and they're like, "So this man delivers presents to kids one day out of the year," and he's like, "Look, that's so fucked up. That's so fucked up."
Dude, Billy Bob Thornton is like a really, really good actor as well.
Just he's amazing.
He's amazing. I
Billy
think,
Bob
like,
Thornton jumps down from the ceiling. He's like, "I'm a musician."
It's hard to say who gives the best performance in this movie because like great case to be made all around.
I think it's Bridget Fonda and Billy Bob Thornton. Definitely.
I mean, Bill Paxton gives a very subtle performance.
He's great.
Bridget Fonda is like you said, Lady Macbeth, but Billy Bob, it's just the depth, the amount of layers to his character, the revelations of like he's not fucking stupid like everyone thinks he is. He's paying attention.
Yeah,
he's listening to everything. He knows what they're saying.
But everyone always underestimates him.
Yep. Exactly.
Like there's two scenes in particular that I thought were just like absolutely emotionally devastating. One was the one you mentioned earlier, Jesse, where he's talking about the ex-girlfriend he had in high school. But then there's a brief thing when he's talking about that after Hank says, "Oh God, man, I'm sorry." He goes, "No, it was cool. We like held hands and stuff." And it's just like
she'd say hi to me outside after.
And one day we were holding hands, and my hands got very sweaty, so she had to let go. I guess I was so nervous.
It's so. Fuck, and then you're gonna make me cry. You're gonna make me fucking cry.
And then at the end of the movie, where he's telling Hank to kill him, it was just like, "Hey man, it's okay. I want this." It's just like all I want you to do is just tell that little girl that teddy bear is from me. Yeah. And meanwhile he doesn't know that Sarah fucking hates it. She thinks it's like dirty and smelly, and she won't give it to the child. And,
that was
so sad.
That was the fucking scene like after their baby was delivered, where immediately I was like, Sarah's up to something. You're like, he gives her the fucking teddy bear, and it's like clearly a gift from Jacob, and it means a lot to Hank, and she's just like, ew.
Well,
like,
remember, he's also, like I said, he's smarter than anyone gives him credit for. He's actually got a lot of good ideas and plans. One of the things he's like, Hank tells him, "You can't have the farm." People are gonna start asking questions like, where'd you get the money? He goes, "You can tell him that Sarah's family, inherited it, and that you guys bought me the farm because you felt bad for me. No one would look the other way on that. Plus, no one's gonna know. No one knows Sarah. She's from out of town. No one knows nothing about her family." And it's like that right there explains everything about Sarah. This is such a close-knit community of everyone who knows everyone. And Sarah feels like she got dragged down by this guy she met at college who was very smart and cool, and he convinced her to move away to this small hick town with him, and she feels trapped now.
Yeah.
She feels fucking trapped in this place she fucking hates, surrounded by people she fucking dislikes, and that all fucking dislike her because she's an outsider, and it's just the worst. And that's why she wants the money so bad. Get her the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
And she resents him because it's like, you fucking drug me here.
It also comes with the promise of running away because that was part of the whole deal.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, I think another reason why he's, like, way smarter than he's given credit for is that, and it's so, this movie is so good about its like thriller scenes because it's just the way it comes out of left field with things and the way like you're just nervous about stuff. I think one of the best ones is in Lou's house when they're drinking and he just looks at him. He goes, "I can't fucking believe you, man," because he's like trying to like fucking tell him. He's like, "You know, Lou, he told me to pick sides. You want me to pick sides, Lou? You've been more." He starts like fully, very believably turns on his brother. And he keeps going. He's mocking him. He's putting Hank in his place and putting him down. And you're like, holy shit. And then he goes, "Hey, Lou, how about you do an impression of him going to fucking? Yeah, I bet he'd rat on us. Lou, you do an impression of him ratting on us."
Well,
and that moment, Hank looks at him. He goes, "It's like this first time in his life he's ever respected his brother. The first time he's ever seen him as an intellectual equal was that moment." That realization that, holy shit, he is plotting.
Yeah.
And it was a really good plan, too. Yeah. He did it really fucking well.
And it's a really good scene because it does the Raimi thing of handling tone really well. Because at first you're like, oh, fuck, like he's going to snitch on him. And then he starts doing the impression of Hank, and it's like, this is fucking funny as shit.
It's kind of funny.
This is funny as shit. And then it's like, oh, fuck, no, wait, he's still going to tell him because that's what you're thinking the whole time. And then it turns.
And then he records it. And then it goes back to stress again because right after it's the confrontation because he reveals...
Which was stupid. Which was a stupid fucking move. As Jacob said.
You reveal it to him when you're not with him. You reveal it to him like the next day or something.
Yeah.
Very dumb. But that's the hubris of Hank. He thinks he's smarter than everyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the innocence of Jacob. He's like, listen, man. He promised me the house, Lou. No, Lou, understand. This is, it's even now. It's even. You had something over us, and you could have. But now it's even. He's just trying to protect himself from you, and now you no one can hurt anyone now if we just stick to the plan. And he's just such a sweet. He just he doesn't see his brother as this fucking monster that he is. He genuinely trusts his brother that his brother is just trying to do it to level the playing field.
And it's credit to Billy Bob Thornton's performance.
God.
It's credit to Billy Bob. It is credit to Billy Bob Thornton's performance.
BBB.
It's credit. It's credit to his performance that he really sells that scene because there's a lot of very complicated emotions. You're kind of trying to have to say multiple things at once, and it's I mentioned that everyone in this movie kind of feels adaptations. Everyone in this movie feels like a character. Billy Bob Thornton feels like an actual guy. I think is the best way to sort of put it because everyone in this movie
I think the only person who feels like a character are Lou and his wife. I feel like Hank. And his wife feel like real people.
Hank and Sarah do have a level of complexity to them, but it's still, I don't know. It's
because Hank is the perfect. I feel like he's getting a little bit of the shot because he's kind of the perfect everyman.
Yeah,
to the point that it's you take a regular dude and you put him in these situations. 9 times out of 10, he probably do all the same things.
Yeah, and maybe this wasn't the case in 1998. And I'm judging this movie maybe a little too harshly, but it's Hank being the perfect everyman who has a dark underbelly to him. I feel like that's kind of an archetype. The Lady Macbeth type of wife. I mean, Lady Macbeth is an archetype.
Yeah.
The friendly policeman in town. Lou especially is
he's a town drunk.
Yeah, he's a town drunk. He's a dumb redneck. That's the part of this movie where it's okay, these are characters. These are archetypes.
But the thing is, all of those people are real.
No, I get that all of these.
If you spend time in small towns,
I grew up in a small town.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're all real.
They are real people, but even people like that I knew, there was levels of complexity to them that I feel in this movie doesn't shine through as much or maybe isn't made as overt. I'm not this isn't me slashing at the movie, but it is a thing I noticed that I would have preferred maybe to see a softer side of Lou. Maybe Lou just is genuinely nice to Hank for a scene, and it's you kind of get why, but otherwise you get why Lou doesn't like Hank.
Yeah.
It's just levels of the complexity of the characters that Lou and his wife don't really get. And I think it's best exemplified by the scene of where they're going to see Hank and Jacob before they find the money are going to their dad's grave. And it's a very touching, very solemn scene. He's you don't just have to come here today, man. I come here all the time. And then Lou's hey, I'm writing my name in the snow. And he's pissing on someone's fucking gravestone. And Billy Bob Thornton's wait, let me get my Johnson out. And then he also pisses in the snow. It's that's a comedy. That is from a fucking, fucking blue-collar comedy tour, side skit movie that they put before each person's special. And it's I'm not... It isn't a huge knock against the movie, but it is something where it's I feel like a version of this movie today would have omitted that scene entirely, would have
But I
made
think it
Hank
wouldn't
a
have
little more
worked.
complex.
I don't think it would have worked.
I feel like
if
they
you-
just would have found different ways to accomplish the same
Sam Raimi
thing.
has a very kind of goofy sense
I
of
don't,
humor.
I don't know. Like,
and that's
I
the
think
thing
it's
is,
part of what gives it the authenticity is these moments of levity. I think what you perceive as like more character, non-realistic things, I feel like the dude just pissing and not giving a shit about a thing he's tagging along for.
It's
kind of
not
a
so
real
much. It's not so much
thing.
the action as just the way it's presented. Is like it happening immediately after this scene. It's like it's very comedic timing. It feels very much like a movie, and this is a movie.
I don't know. You're sounding like Harry Styles right now.
What the fuck are you
My
talking
favorite thing
about?
is that this movie, it's like a
Oh,
movie.
shut the
It
fuck
feels
up.
like a
Shut the
movie.
fuck up, Randy,
This movie
you
feels
stupid
like a
fucking
movie.
bitch.
I'm not the one saying it feels like a movie. It's like a movie. Yeah, it's a fucking movie. I don't know
what
what to tell
I mean
you.
is that
It's not a fucking documentary. You're
Okay, how about you
watching.
shut the fuck up and let me finish, Randy?
Say something besides it's a movie.
What I'm saying is that it feels very much rehearsed and scripted, and
Because it is.
Will you let me fucking finish? God damn it! How about you don't interrupt me? How about that?
I mean, go
How
ahead.
about you don't interrupt me?
Go
How about
ahead.
you don't interrupt me?
Okay.
All right. So the thing I'm saying is that it feels less authentic. Like a thriller today, I feel like would have put a lot more reality into the script, and the characters' performances would have felt a lot more genuine, and they would have felt a lot more flawed and human. There are parts of this movie, I think a lot of this movie does that very well, especially for 1998, where the standards for thrillers especially were very different. Not better, not worse, just different. But there are scenes in this movie that feel very much like...
Okay,
I don't know what you mean by
hold on.
this.
I can finally jump back into this conversation because I have something. I have a relevant. I think I can explain what Jesse's saying. So in the Star Wars prequels, they have all the fights and they look really cool and they're really rehearsed and choreographed and they're really well done. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. But you watch a fight in one of the other ones where something else happens. And it's not as like perfectly choreographed. It's still choreographed and rehearsed, but it's like done in such a way that it feels more like it's a genuine plight of two people against each other. And I think that's what he's talking about, where it's like the gag is good. The gag works and it does what it's supposed to do. But without the gag, it feels more genuine. It feels more like, because if you're going with your brother to see your dad's grave, you're probably not going to bring your dumb fuck friend who's going to do something
and
like
even
that.
if you do bring your dumb fuck friend, like when he starts doing that, you're going to be like, hey, come on, man, relax.
I don't know. To me, yet again, it's...
I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm just saying I think it's a fair criticism.
Part of the point of like the thing is, it's like it's been years. Jacob doesn't deify his dad in the same way that Hank seems to. He saw him as a person because, as he said, I talk to dad all the time. That's what I did. I would talk to him constantly. He really knew his dad. And he goes to see the grave often. To him, this is just like any other thing he does. Yeah. It's no different now that his dad's dead. He's going to bring his friend along because he wants to hang out with his friend.
And I agree with that, too.
And Hank elevates it to this big moment he has once a year to like really make it a ceremony, but it's not that ceremony. And earlier in that scene, that is pointed out by Jacob. That's also why it's not weird for Jacob to go, I'm going to go get my Johnson out too, because it's not a special thing to him.
No.
It's just like a normal, it's like a part of his day.
It's not about it being weird. It's not about it being out of place. It's not about it not fitting. It's, in my eyes, and maybe I'm not speaking for Jesse. I can't say that we have the same thoughts. But from what Jesse is saying, because this, to me, is not a criticism of the movie. But if, like, I was recommended this movie based off of, like, I don't know, something else that was more de-dramatized. And they were like, oh, if you like that, you would like A Simple Plan. And then I watched A Simple Plan, I'd be like, why'd you say that? That's weird.
Dramatized is, I think, a very, very good way to put this. Like, this movie does feel very dramatized at times and less grounded.
It's not that it doesn't fit. It's just that the timing of the shot. Like, you imagine the camera is this omniscient thing that's just happening to view in on specific moments. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure that funny moment would happen in their life, but it's a little movie-esque, film-esque to have that moment happen during this other exciting story that we're following.
I think I get what you guys are saying. I think I mostly agree in the sense of like, things are.
That's something I like about it, though.
Things are certainly elevated and exaggerated in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's a morality tale.
Right.
It's a morality tale filled with like extremely very human characters who make believable human mistakes.
I hate when people say things like, it doesn't feel real, it feels like a movie, or it feels like a scripted moment. It's like, motherfucker, every movie is a movie. Every moment is scripted in some way in a movie. And like, it's a movie.
Right?
It's like a nothing burger statement.
And I also hate that criticism on its face. But what Jesse was saying earlier is that when it comes to like true crime sort of stories, he prefers it to be more, like less like that, like because that's common for a lot of people. If they're watching Star Wars, play it up as much as you want. But if you're watching like fucking Babylon when that comes out, you're going to be expecting something different.
What's interesting about this movie is how you can kind of fit it. This movie actually fits pretty comfortably, I would say, in Sam Raimi's filmography thematically, because think about some of the similarities this movie has with another movie like Army of Darkness or Evil Dead or something, or Drag Me to Hell, where the character just makes a mistake and just pays for it and gets really gets really punished for
and they're
making
regular
a mistake.
people too, and that's like this does feel very much.
It
may
not
like
even be necessarily they make a mistake; they just make a choice and they just get severely punished for it.
Yeah,
Sam Raimi has kind of like this weird kind of twisted sense of humor where he just likes to punish his characters. And this movie fits comfortably in that, I would say. So if nothing else, I think that's one of the reasons what that may have attracted him to this project, amongst the other reasons I mentioned.
Isn't he friends with the Coens brothers?
He is. Yes, they grew up in Michigan together. They worked on Evil Dead together. They all lived. It was Joel and Ethel Coen. And then Frances McDormand, Sam Raimi, and Bruce Campbell all lived together for like a solid year before they all went their separate ways. And they must have workshopped some stuff together because this is in the mid 80s. Because the next projects those filmmakers would make, the Coens would go off and make Raising Arizona. A lot of people would say is their best movie. And then you got Evil Dead 2. A lot of people say that's Sam Raimi's best movie.
Yeah. Hang on. I love Raising Arizona. I have not met anyone who say it's the Coens brothers.
It's on my
movies.
list, I think.
I mean, like it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong.
Amazing.
I think it's one of the. Yeah. That movie has good Coen brothers.
That movie has a pretty passionate fan base.
Yeah, but I mean, every Coens brother.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like Big Lebowski.
I think
exists.
Sure. We'll talk
about
Coen
brother movies. I think most people would say almost any other movies besides like Hail Caesar.
Oh yeah,
I'm not best movie.
Hail Caesar's pretty much unanimously agreed.
I liked Hail Caesar. Side note.
I think it's really good.
I thought it was really good. It's very fun.
I like Hail Caesar too.
I like the communist angle.
And I love how the story is told. That's the thing everybody hates about it. But I love the interstitials.
There's that really funny scene with fucking Alden Ehrenreich.
Yes, every scene with him in that movie is hysterical.
With him and the guy who played Voldemort. I can't remember the fucking actor.
What's the line that he's trying to say?
Word that it were so simple.
Word
that it's worth so simple. I would also not say that Raising Arizona is Coen Brothers' best movie. I wouldn't say it's my personal favorite either. But there are a lot of people who do say that, though.
Yeah, I love Raising Arizona. But anyway, like, motherfucker, No Country for Old Men. Are we forgetting about that one?
Well, we'll talk about the Coens on a different movie because I know all of us.
I think No Country
movies.
for Old Men's on my list.
It is on my list too, and Fargo as well. I thought about putting I thought
about putting Inside Llewyn Davis on mine.
Hudsucker Proxy on mine too. A movie that actually Sam Raimi also worked on too.
Oh.
Yeah, Sam Raimi co-wrote Hudsucker Proxy. The Coen Brothers directed it, and Sam Raimi also directed the second unit for Hudsucker Proxy.
Yeah.
There's a montage in the movie that you can see. That's like it's 100% Sam Raimi, and there's some shots in the movie where you can go, "That's Sam Raimi."
Yeah. See, speaking of like shots that you can point out and go, "That's Sam Raimi." There's like three that I can think of in this movie. One, it's the random jump cut, like almost like jump scare of the fox with the chicken in its mouth,
Yep.
the big Danny Elfman, boom, like musical
Yeah,
sting that
absolutely.
happens.
It's got like the crash zooms and stuff.
The scene where he's in the plane and it keeps cutting back to the pilot's head moving slightly, and then the reveal of him being picked at by crows.
I love
It does
that
a bunch of angles, and he gets attacked by the birds. It's a very like Evil Dead moment. And then finally, when he fucking shotgun blasts Lou's wife,
And she
flies through the air.
That
Like,
was the moment where I was
very
like, no,
much
yeah,
like
this is Sam Raimi.
like she's like a fucking deadite. Just
I talk about like stuff in this movie that's over the top or like exaggerated and how I feel like it doesn't mesh. That one does not mesh, and I don't care. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It fucking rules.
I would say
Also,
Sam-
if you want to talk about more plain and simple things, just look at how anything between Hank and his wife is shot in their house, and how anything is shot between Tobey Maguire and Rosemary Harris in their house in Spider-Man. It's
it's very similar. He does a lot of like nice, soft, like very soft.
Looks like there's
focus
Vaseline on the
everything.
lens. And shit.
Yeah, it's very idyllic. It's meant to
Yeah.
seem
Yeah.
idyllic. Speaking of probably one of my favorite moments from Bill Paxton this entire movie, well, not even just from him, but just the character of Hank, is the one time he comes up with a plan, like truly himself. Well, there's two. There's the murder, which actually he does do it really well. He doesn't get caught. Yeah. Well, then crashing the thing. There's no suspicion of murder. Mm-hmm. It's just he crashed. And then the other time when he kills, where Lou dies because Jacob kills him, and then he kills Lou's wife. He thinks so fast, and he does the right thing immediately.
Yeah.
He fucking just he without thinking goes, okay, and he starts shotgun blasting like everything,
And there's
and then he rubs his fingerprints off. He hands it to him, and it shows yet again like his wife is Lady Macbeth, and that she's all this plotting. But that moment when he blows up on her, and she's like, "It's just do the plan." He goes, "What plan, Sarah? The one where I went back with the money and the farmer wound up dead? That plan, Sarah?" Or the plan where I go and I tape record Lou and I fucking kill him and his wife. How about that plan, Sarah?
Yeah.
And
Like,
there's that really intense, really tense scene with Hank and Jacob when they're I think they're in the basement after they kill Lou and his wife,
and they're waiting
and
for
then,
the cops to arrive.
Yeah, and then it's just like there's a close up, and it's just kind of a long take of, and it's just a close up of like you have Jacob in the foreground, and then you have Hank in the background. He's slightly out of focus, and he's basically just telling him the story, and he keeps repeating it.
I need you to say it to
Yeah,
me.
and he keeps repeating it, and then and he's not, and he thinks Jacob's just too traumatized to be able to say it, but then he kind of just slowly kind of repeats the story back to him.
And then you get a beautiful reverse shot, with like transition with Hank, where he's looking at him, and then he looks up, and then immediately it cuts to a high angle shot of the officer interviewing him, immediately saying, "So did this happen or whatever?" He goes, yeah. He's like, "So your brother said this." It's like, oh.
I could see how that would seem that way to him.
Yeah, no, and it's the only plans that actually work out in this movie in some way are the ones that he himself comes up with.
Yeah.
The ones his wife comes up with don't work at all in the slightest.
So there's an aspect to this, or there's an element of this movie.
Don't trust women, correct?
No.
Alpha brain chow.
Look, Randy, if that was your read,
Dick
I
Sponge
guess that's
Pod.
fine. But no, there's an element to the plot of this movie that I actually just don't like, and that I think kind of hurts the movie. It's the end. One of the ransom kidnappers posing as an FBI agent. That to me just felt
Gary Cole.
I love Gary Cole. He's really, really good in this movie, but that just felt like crime novel stuff. And then everything leading up to it, it's like he gets a cop's gun out of his glass window office. It's like, okay, I can maybe see that. Then there's just like a random assorted bullets in his desk, not organized by caliber or size or anything.
That happens.
And his wife is like, oh, I'm going to call the FBI and see if they can tell me the name of this agent. And he's like, oh, no, the FBI will be closed before 9 because the FBI's business hours are 9 to 5.
They are, though.
But it's still just weird. Like, it's like, it doesn't, saying it out loud, it sounds kind of goofy. I think having one of the ransom kidnappers pose as an FBI agent is very goofy.
I think it works.
Also, because there's that with the gun and the loose bullets, you do get that kind of like a tense scene later where like
he's
sitting in the plane and he keeps trying to load the bullets into the gun.
And see, that's the thing of why I ultimately can't fault the movie too much for a lot of this stuff is because does it make a lot of sense immediately? Not really. It's kind of dumb, but the payoff is so good that I'm willing to forgive it a little bit. It's like, yeah, why would a veteran cop who's like the sheriff have a bunch of random fucking bullets in his desk?
Well, hold on. That is realistic.
I've not.
No, yes, it is.
I've known a lot of fucking old people with guns, and they are very certain to keep their ammo organized.
I can tell you right now, that is a realistic thing to have a drawer that has random bullets.
Especially if you
not all of your bullets, but yes, you have random.
Especially if you're
a small town sheriff, yes.
Well, also here's the thing: it was a revolver, so it also makes sense
yes.
too. How you just drop them in the drawer.
I mean, yeah, but then why are there multiple different calibers?
Because there's multiple different calibers of guns they have in the cabinet.
Yeah, I get it, but why would you just drop all the random bullets into a... But point is, like, it was weird to me. It didn't make sense, but it's worth it for that scene where he's fumbling with the bullets in the plane.
Yeah, my biggest thing with that is, like, it does actually make some amount of sense. It's a realistic enough thing. I get that the overall, like, the FBI agent thing, yes, I get that. That's not realistic. But the bullet thing, that's pretty realistic. People do just have drawers with a random sorts of bullet. This is not a big police department. This is a small town sheriff who he keep the armory is a wooden glass cabinet in his office.
Okay, and he wouldn't just have the bullets on like a little rack on top because my dad's gun safe has the bullets.
Your
not
dad
stored
is
in
in
the
the
gun.
sheriff. I don't know what to say.
But none of them were Bullet Bill.
You got to point.
None of them were Bullet Bill. Yeah,
I mean, he still shot him though. Bullet Bill would have hit as well.
Which I gotta say that scene was really dope.
Is Bullet Bill lethal?
Yes, that was a pretty badass moment from Hank where he's pointing.
Knocks you off the track.
Oh yeah,
it does knock off.
Makes Mario go wah and fall off the stage.
What if you have the gold star?
Oh, then it doesn't. It bounces off of him.
Yeah, it makes you invincible for a while.
Yeah, and then Bullet Bill dies.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of bullets, that is a really cool scene where Hank's pointing the gun at the guy and he's like, "Well, I guess we both got some explaining to do."
Do you think that they'll have that happen in the Mario movie where like he gets the gold star and goes Super Saiyan?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what he's going to do in that moment, he's going to be like, man, I'm feeling so great. Hi, I'm Mario. I feel so good with this gold star. I'm so healthy, just like my one healthy kid.
Oh, my God.
I'm so proud of my one healthy child. I'm Mario.
I'm Chris Pratt.
Hi, I'm Mario.
I'm Garfield. I love lasagna and hate gay people.
Hi, I'm Garfield. I mean Mario. I mean Star-Lord.
Hi,
I'm
Garfield, and I love my one healthy child.
My one healthy child.
My one healthy child. The one good thing my bitch ex-wife did for me.
No, that's not. No, his current wife gave him his one healthy child. He was shitting on the fact that.
Oh yeah.
Because his other son has.
Hey Garfield, what's up? Go woke, go broke, John.
Go woke, go broke, John.
Hey, Star-Lord, are you gonna help us? Let's go, Brandon.
Let's just bring back Bill Murray and let him do Garfield again.
Okay, all right. Having him do Garfield, fine.
I think it's wait.
I think it's so funny.
Can we get Garfield's girlfriend finally, and he beats the shit out of her when she asks where he's been for a month?
I think it's so funny that apparently.
What? Did you not know that about Bill Murray?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Garfield. I thought that happened in Garfield comic.
Like, damn, when did Frank Miller take over Garfield?
Lorenzo Music just beats the shit out of his wife.
R.I.P. Lorenzo Music's dead, right?
Yeah, he's dead.
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P.
He never beat the shit out of his wife.
Speaking of Lorenzo, Lorenzo's oil and yes. Let's bringing it back, baby.
Yeah, also a movie about dads, about your relationship with your dad. Takes us back to Superman. Takes us back to Birdman.
And Evangelion,
guys, we've been making Chris Pratt jokes completely unaware of the fact that we did a Guardians of the Galaxy 2 episode.
No, Evangelion is the pregnant mother. The baby inside of her is the pilot. She is the Eva.
Damn, there's a pilot in this movie.
A dead one.
Oh my fucking God. Shit.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you, Gary Cole is fucking Gendo.
He even dresses a little bit like him.
He would be a good Gendo.
Yeah, no, but like Gary Cole is Gendo Ikari. This is the only thing that he could be. There's no one else who could be. Well, you know what? Rei Ayanami. Never mind. Gary Cole could be Rei Ayanami.
Are we talking about
best girl?
Gary Cole in this movie or in general?
In general.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
in general.
Jacob does a little bit look like if Billy Bob Thornton was hired to play Shinji Ikari. Just with like the long stringy hair under the hat.
No, unironically, he does look like he could be fucking Gendo, like hillbilly Gendo.
Yeah.
He's got the hair, his glasses,
My
everything.
dad told me to get an Eva. Some people call it a Unit 1. I call it an Eva.
I feel like
anyway.
in this situation, Bill Paxton would be Gendo.
R.I.P.
Well, R.I.P. Bill
Who's
Paxton.
Kanye?
Who's Kanye?
Who is Kanye? Bridget Fonda,
Okay.
because she's crazy. Because she's crazy.
Then who's Kevin Smith?
Oh,
Lou.
it's Lou.
Who is
'Cause he's-
absolutely Kevin Smith? Of course. Jesus Christ.
Because he's a crass fat dude.
There you go.
There you go. That's it. That's who he is.
So our fan cast for the Eva movie that we just pulled
It
the
expands
cast
more,
from
but-
Simple Plan into this.
That's
And of
the
course-
way to do
and
it.
Of course, it's also directed by Sam Raimi, of course.
Right. It's
Oh,
gotta
he
be.
would actually be phenomenal.
A joint effort
Great,
between him
yeah.
and Frank Miller, of course.
And
Why Frank Miller?
Best
Because
writer.
we had to bring in the best Lorenzo's Oil director.
Frank
To
Miller
come in.
did. Frank
It's
Miller didn't
George
direct
Miller.
Lorenzo.
It's
Oil. That's George
not
Miller.
Frank Miller. I'm dumb. Listen.
I mentioned Frank Miller. That might have.
no,
That's what it was. It was the mention of Frank. It made Miller.
Hold the
in my
fuck
head.
on. Randy did not say the director of Lorenzo's Oil.
The best
Frank
director.
Miller. He said the best director of Lorenzo's Oil.
Imagine Frank Miller's Lorenzo. There's just his mom is a big titty prostitute who's addicted to heroin, and his dad is just beating the shit out of people to create like a cure for his son.
Why aren't you bleeding a cure for my kid's disease? Give me your oil.
Give me your oil.
He's just ripping the spinal
And
fluid out of people.
The funny thing
And he
is,
goes on a rant about
is
how libertarianism is the only way.
this was the original version of Lorenzo's Oil that was unreleased. They got George Miller to put it back together after this. It was a nightmare.
They called George and they were like, "Look, we know this looks like a Mad Max movie. We need you to not do
And then-
that."
They- the studio
we
signed
dial
up-
it back a bit.
The
And
studio
he's
signed
like,
up
"I
for
might buy the pig in the city."
They
Oh,
signed
that's
up
not
for
Australia.
a very weird deal where they only get the dailies at the very end of all the
They get the
shooting.
dailies in the form of a fully edited
Yes,
feature
yes.
film.
You see, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. But the movie, George Miller came in and changed it enough, and eventually got released under a different name and a completely different movie. It
Happy
has
Feet.
Nothing in common with this other movie called The Spirit.
Oh, it's Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron.
No, The Spirit.
Got you. That's no.
Okay,
No, that's Frank Miller.
Yeah.
You said George Miller.
Well, George
No,
Miller's
they're
The
the same
Spirit would have
guy.
been very different.
No, they're the same guy.
Wait, Frank Miller directed
Frank-
The
No,
Spirit?
no.
Frank George Miller.
Guys, it's Miller time. Drink up.
I'm a Budweiser man myself.
George Frank.
got a
No,
Michelob.
there's three people now. There's Frank Miller, George Miller, who both directed
And,
versions of
wait,
Lorenzo's Oil.
and we're forgetting about Joe G. Miller, the musician in Filthy Frank.
And there's,
Also,
there's also Frank George Miller, who is apparently the director of The Spirit or Sin City or maybe both. Or all
no,
three.
he's the director of Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron.
And then there's
With
and then
Matt
there's
Damon being the horse that everyone wants to fuck.
No, Matt Damon directed that movie.
and then there's
The-
Tim Miller who directed Deadpool, he's the worst Miller for that.
He also
What?
did, but he did Dark Fate. Shut the fuck
Oh,
up.
he did do Dark Fate. Okay, never mind.
Dark
Tim
Fate.
Miller's
No,
pretty good.
ass.
The worst Miller is T.J. Miller. I think
Oh
you're
yeah.
No, he's the bomb, guys.
Oh god.
That joke would have been so much funnier if he's like, "No, he's the credibly accused sexual assault, guys."
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
true.
that
He did
one.
do that.
That too. Yeah, wow.
Allegedly.
So anyway,
Allegedly.
Frank Miller directed The Spirit.
He did
Frank
direct
George
The
Miller.
Spirit. Did
Yeah.
he direct Sin City? Because I love.
Well, no.
No, yeah, that was
Robert
Rodriguez. Yeah, Sin
Well,
City.
actually, he I think he gives co-directing credit
Yeah,
to
he
Frank
does.
Miller in that, but it was
Yeah.
mostly Robert Rodriguez.
Timothy
Sin City-
Franklin George Miller.
Sin City fucking rules. I
Yeah,
love
that
that.
movie's
That movie
awesome.
fucks, dude.
The Spirit sucks.
Yeah,
Dude, Robert
bad
Rod-
movie.
You don't like
Robert
that
Rodriguez
horse?
is the good director, you know? It's like
Yeah,
Wait,
Alita Battle Angel is
hold
amazing.
Hold on. Who's the woman? I'm sorry. Let me repeat that. Who's the bitch in
who's
The
that broad?
Spirit?
Who's that broad in spirit?
Wait.
Who's the bitch in The Spirit?
I don't
Eva
remember.
Longoria, I think.
No, it's not Eva Longoria.
That is a name I have not heard
Is
of
it
in a
Eva
while.
Mendes?
I think it might be Eva Mendes.
Maybe.
Okay, there's her, and there's another woman in that movie who's blonde.
No, it's Eva Unit 1 is who you're thinking
Yeah.
of.
Oh my god. But they're both, pardon my French, hot as fuck in this movie. in The Spirit. And also, Samuel Jackson plays a character named The Octopus who has 8 guns. And you're telling me this is a bad movie?
He says he has 8 of everything.
Yeah, 8 of everything.
Yes.
So the implication being he has 8 dicks.
I was just about to say 8 dicks.
Even fucking better. And you're telling you're both sitting here and being like, "Oh, it's a bad movie."
Have you seen this? Have you seen The Spirit?
I have seen it. Thank you.
And you don't remember it being lame as shit?
I absolutely remember those things, but I also remember those 2 actresses being hot as fuck.
They were hot as fuck.
And Samuel Jackson being called the Octopus and having 8 of everything.
How old were you when you saw The Spirit?
It doesn't matter. If I saw it at my current age, I would have the exact same feelings on it. It
saw
has 2 very attractive women in it, and it has Samuel Jackson playing a character named the Octopus who has 8 of everything.
As long as I can jack my painter wiener to something, it's good. And
Thank
that's why
you.
Simple Plan is good, because I jacked my painter wiener to Billy Bob Thornton. Every time he was on screen, I saw the way his glasses could split apart and come back together. It made me think of his asshole and how I could go inside of it.
It's the Billy Bob beat-off challenge. We're beating off to every single Billy Bob Thornton performance in the month of October. So we're starting this next month.
Then
We're
we
going
go
to
to
be
Monster-
chronicling the experience.
Monsters Ball.
Which part you busted at? It has to be a Billy Bob
Every
part
single,
of the movie.
actually, we're gonna just preview at the
It's
the
gonna be
comment section
a
below.
Patreon exclusive.
Yeah, if you're, see, we don't have a Patreon. In the
gonna be an
comments,
OnlyFans exclusive.
In the comments, I do have an OnlyFans. In the comments down below, I do want you all to tell us, in a simple plan, what Billy Bob moment did you bust at? What moment of Billy Bob Thornton in this movie did you
favorite-
bust at? It was, for me, it was when he was crying.
My favorite Billy Bob moment is in the movie Mr. Woodcock.
Oh, because he's got a woodcock.
I have
movie's
seen that movie.
So fucking funny, dude.
It's very funny.
Oh my!
Fucked up.
He's just an angry dude mad that his gym teacher's fucking his mom.
He's just good in everything.
Yeah.
He's good in the Bad News Bears
Even in the
remake.
Bad
Oh
News
my
Bears
God,
remake,
yeah.
which I got issues with, but he's good. He's good in everything.
Wasn't that directed by Richard Linklater?
I think it was.
It
yeah.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm like 95%
It was
sure
one of
on
those
that.
weird movies he did that you're like,
Yeah,
why the fuck? Did
around
you
the
do
same
this?
time,
He was like, I want money to do before 3.
Around the same time, he also did School of Rock.
Why did
Yeah.
why did I call it before 3?
I remember I watched Bad News Bears way too young because I saw it at the Hollywood Video and I said,
Yeah.
"Hey mom, this says it's directed by the guy who did School of Rock," and she had never heard of the original Bad News Bears, let alone
my
the
mom,
remake.
Speaking of Bad News Bears, first off, Hollywood Video. This tape is from Hollywood Video.
I stole it and never returned
Never
it.
return it. No, your late fees are enough to bring the company back to life.
Fuck their late fees.
But also, speaking of Bad News Bears, my mom definitely knew about Bad News Bears because to her, there are 2 men in Hollywood that are more attractive than anyone else. Anyone else. One is Shamar Moore. And
Understandable.
and number 2, I can't remember his name. David, can you say it? You know.
Jackie Earl Haley.
Jackie Earl Haley.
Yep.
Jackie Earl Haley.
The tiny man himself.
Rorschach.
The only reason why for both is, 1, she loves bald men, and so to her, Jackie Earl Haley and Shamar Moore are equals.
One day, your mom will look up to bang me, and I'll whisper,
But
no.
the other thing is, she had a poster of him from Bad News Bears on his mini bike on her wall when she was in high school.
You've told me this story multiple times. It never isn't funny.
It's
hilarious.
so funny. He looks like a wet rat in that movie. If you watch the original Bad News Bears, he looks like a wet rat.
You know,
he could have been the guy from Mask with no makeup.
Very similar. My mom said that one time she just off the cuff mentioned thinking that Lyle Lovett. I don't know if you guys know who Lyle Lovett is.
Nah.
He's a musician. He's busted. And my mom was like, "Oh yeah, no, I think he's attractive."
How
and
many times was he busted? What was he busted for?
My dad started just laughing hysterically in the car when she mentioned it, and he was like, "No, this you can't be saying this." And then she brought it up to my brother, or he brought it up to my brother, and he was like, "Google him right now. Google Lyle Lovett." My brother Googled Lyle Lovett, and he went, "Oh no!"
Hang on.
And he showed me a picture of him.
Yo, by the way, speaking of your dad, we did mention someone who was in this movie, Bridget Fonda.
Oh yeah, my dad did meet Peter Fonda. He had dinner with Peter Fonda. He has a story that might or might not be true about Peter Fonda not
Making a pass at him.
making a pass. Yeah. And yeah, he was just, my dad was working as a theater hand for a show in a city, and Peter Fonda happened to be paying for the show, and he took everybody out to eat every night. And my dad wasn't like a guy that worked; he was just filling in because he was looking for work. Yeah, he got to eat dinner with Peter Fonda. That's pretty sick.
And might have would have had the chance to suck Peter Fonda's dick if he wanted
Look,
to.
here's the thing.
Listen.
I'm not gonna say it's true, but if Peter Fonda made a pass at my dad, I know what I would do. And it's not saying no.
But isn't that the conservative dad thing to do? To just like meet a Hollywood celebrity who's just being nice and be like, I think that fella's a homosexual. Is making a pass at me.
Definitely a gay boy.
Definitely one of those gay boys.
I think he's one of those Marlon Brando types.
Yeah.
I think he's one of those. You know what I mean?
I'm glad we have a straight actor president like Ronald Reagan,
Like
who's not gay at all.
Like Ronald Wilson Reagan.
I think Shinji would have felt weird around him.
Yo, Peter Fonda as Gendo.
We just cast every old guy as Gendo.
Yeah.
I'm
Why
surprised.
wouldn't
I'm
we?
surprised
Honestly,
for
yeah,
Late Bird
you-
we didn't say
you-
Timothy Chalamet.
You
as
make an
Shinji.
Eva movie and you just hire every actor above 70 to play Gendo and no other actors for any other
They
roles.
change every single
You
scene.
film it like using one of those like motion
called
those motion
75
control
Gendos.
units. And so it's perfectly matching the exact camera movement every time. And every scene, you just replace it with a different actor. And you just splice every single frame by frame, to a
Yeah.
different actor.
No, you do-
Doing the exact same motion in the same. It would be insane.
You do the Scanner Darkly like identity suit thing where it's like they're constantly changing between all the different actors.
Damn, dude. Scanner Darkly fucks.
so
Side note.
fucking
That
good.
that movie is such a weird.
Richard Linklater.
Linklater has such a weird career. He's you know, it's very surreal and nightmarish.
This is why I like his.
Yeah.
his movies.
Oh, I love it. But like that movie, Scanner Darkly, it's weird. It's nightmarish. It's this weird animation. It's very dreamlike and very like kind of bizarre. Speaking of dreamlike, bizarre, nightmarish animation, next week's episode is going to be on Satoshi Kon's Paprika from 2006.
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, 2006, I believe.
Wait, let me do my impression of that one song, the only thing that I know about Paprika.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know Paprika, you don't know who Satoshi Kon is, quick little rundown. Satoshi Kon is considered one of the great anime directors in Japan. He is now since passed.
R.I.P.
He had done very famous movies like Millennium Girl, Tokyo Godfathers,
Perfect Blue.
Perfect Blue. There you go. Thank you. My brain just farted on that one. Perfect Blue. This is considered one of his greats. He also did a amazing show that if you were woken up to something horrifying at night on Adult Swim in the early 2000s of like people laughing, you hear a song just just like people laughing on top of buildings and jumping off. That was an anime called Paranoia Agent that he had directed that you should definitely watch. It's on Crunchyroll. Every single episode. It's a short watch. It's like 20 episodes long. Masterpiece. So Satoshi Kon's amazing. And Paprika, it's also, if you were a fan of Inception, a lot of people like to say Inception ripped off Paprika. That is not the case, but it did definitely take clear inspiration. It's got a lot of similarities in plot. Basic plot for Paprika, it is about a near future where psychologists have created this device that lets you enter people's dreams. And you know their plan is to use it for like psychology, like helping people out, right? Like, but a dream terrorist gets a hold of this technology and starts wreaking havoc. And a big part of the movie is dealing with going into people's dreams and the layers within dreams and what is real and what isn't. A lot of the rules and a lot of the way the dreams are shot will feel very familiar if you have seen Inception, because Inception took a lot of inspiration from it. Some shots are kind of like mirrored heavily, but it's, yeah. I highly recommend watching it. I mean, have we all seen Paprika here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've never seen Paprika?
Nope.
Oh,
Haven't
you're
seen
in for a treat.
I haven't seen Perfect Blue either.
Okay.
Perfect Blue, so good.
So have you never seen any Satoshi Kon? You've never seen Tokyo Godfathers?
Nope.
Wait, you watched Black Swan, right?
Yep.
Perfect Blue is very similar.
Yeah.
I am aware.
Yeah. So it's definitely worth watching. Satoshi Kon is one of the greats. Unfortunately, it is not streaming anywhere. Don't worry though. It is for rent on every platform like Vudu, YouTube, Amazon. I think it's $2.99 or $3.99.
So make a doll of the guy who owns the streaming rights, I guess, and then you stab it until he makes it free to watch.
That's how he makes it free to watch.
You said it's on Vudu.
Yeah, that's so go. It's like $2.99 or $3.99. You can rent it. Highly recommend you watch it. It's such worth the watch. And yeah, so every single Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will find this podcast on its home on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, to hit the bell notification, comment down below. Tell us what moment during A Simple Plan you busted to Billy Bob Thornton. I want to know about your busting.
Your hashtag
busting
Billy Bob
makes it feel good.
Hashtag Billy Bob bus moments.
Hashtag Billy Bob bus moments. I need to hear about your Billy Bob bus moments.
Some folks call it ejaculating, I call it busting.
So, and then on Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can get this podcast for the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and apparently Google Play Podcasts, which, yet again, apparently there's Irish people who like listening to this podcast. I looked at the demographics. The only people listening to it via Google Play are Irish people. So I don't know where this Irish fan base is coming
Congratulations.
from. Congratulations.
I'm
the
happy.
Queen's died.
Yeah. Congratulations for your loss.
Good night.